Tune in if you want to hear. So we have Chad, Josh, Dmitri, and Marcus every Friday. It's the Square Round Table. Tune in. It's the Square Round Table podcast. Let's have a blast. I know at work you had a long day. Just relax and tune in.
Now,
Okay.
Now you can talk. It's all recorded now.
Okay, cool.
That's
cool.
all behind the
talked
scenes.
about this. We talked about this.
No, we
Okay.
we definitely did. We're trying to learn that lesson. So I'm gonna go ahead and just give you the quick introduction. So for all of our viewers and listeners out there, oh yeah, no problems. And for all of our viewers and listeners, I just want to thank everybody again for joining the Square Round Table podcast. We appreciate you guys tuning in every week. And like always, we have a very special episode tonight, guys. We are honored to be joined by artist, musician, and autobiographical cartoonist, Mr. Keith Knight. So thank you so much for joining us. We are very honored to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Thank you.
welcome,
It is
welcome.
an honor to be here. And it's interesting that your Square Roundtable, my MailChimp mailing list is called the Round Table because my last name's Knights of the Round Table, blah, blah, blah.
So basically this was just meant to happen, man. That's all.
Yes.
Yeah, now we have a night at the table, everybody.
We finally can say we have a night at the round
Right,
table.
night
So
at
there
the
you
round
go.
table.
Night at the round table.
Yes. So, Mr. Knight, just before we start everything and get into it, we just like to ask. We ask every guest when they come, how's everything been going for you lately? I know you said since it's Black History Month, you are booked and busy, but besides that, how are you doing?
Good. It's like I said before, it's a curse and a blessing. February. It is always the busiest time of the year for me. And like I said, before you started recording, I always thank the people. I thank the people for bringing me, but I also tell them I work the other 11 months of the year. And at the next week, actually, I'm going on a cruise with my family. That's going to be a whole new experience. And I don't know, there's all these family members have been telling me, oh, you should go on a cruise. You should go on a cruise. And friends have been doing it. I have one of my buddies went on a Star Trek cruise where there's all the actors are there. Yeah, there's a bunch of actors from movies and TV shows and voices from and so it's just like a Star Trek nerd cruise. So we bit the bullet and we're gonna go down to the Caribbean for a little while. So it's gonna be fun.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Anybody here? I know Joshua for sure because we haven't gone on no cruise. But Marcus, Demetrius, have y'all been on the cruise life before, man?
Man,
No.
I want to go, but I haven't been. Yeah.
I'm on the fence about it.
I never did. I never thought of doing it, but it's so weird. So many different people from different aspects of my life were like, oh yeah, I just went on a cruise. Oh yeah, it's really blah, blah, blah. It's cheaper than you think, blah, blah, blah. And just looked into it and it was a little less expensive than I was expecting it to be. And I don't know. I look at it this way. I'm going to do a lot of comics on it. I'm going to just draw comics about being on this cruise and then just write it off as a tax write-off. So that's my plan.
Boom.
There you go. There you go.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I just want to get out the way and just get more information for us and for our viewers and listeners out there, we just want a little bit of background about you, Mr. Knight. So number one, we ask our guests also, like, where are you from? And as far as your career path and your passion, what would you say was your earliest introduction of cartoons that stuck out to you, that really meant something to you?
Oh, wow. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm based in Carborough, North Carolina now, which is a little town just outside of UNC, Chapel Hill. And by way of, I went from Boston to San Francisco, LA, and now I'm in North Carolina. But my first exposure to cartooning, I think, were like reading when I was a little kid, reading newspapers. I just remember that there were they had a decent cartoon page back in the day. And so I found that really fascinating. But I also found that there were cartoons not only on the comics page, there were cartoons on the editorial page. There were cartoons on the sports page, and there were cartoons in the classified section. So it made me read the whole newspaper. And I think that's what made me want to be like a newspaper cartoonist more than anything else. I was never too much into comic books because they never end. So there's always a cliffhanger, and I'm always like, oh, wait, I gotta wait till next month. I'm not sure I'm gonna live till next month. So I've always been into comics that actually end. And I got into Peanuts, Doonesbury. I really love Doonesbury because he was mixing in stuff that was happening in the world with fictional characters. But I also remember Mad Magazine. Mad Magazine was huge for me. And I just love the parody aspect of it, the satire. And then just I dug Parliament Funkadelic albums. Like the artwork and Parliament Funkadelic albums were just really, I loved how just they were just, it was, yeah, I just love that stuff. I don't know, and then Warner Brothers cartoons and all that stuff morphed into the style. I remember doing my own version of Mad Magazine when I was in 5th grade, 4th grade or something. And I didn't have a copy machine, so I would just redraw like the same issue over and over again and sell it, and then redraw it and sell it. And I just started incorporating it into my schoolwork. And I would always get higher grades if I incorporated it into my schoolwork, except math. Math, you're either right or wrong. Like can't mess it up. But my first auto-bio strip was about a food fight in junior high school. And I did parodies, caricatures of different students, teachers, lunch ladies, and no one wanted. I was making fun of everyone, but no one wanted to kick my ass. They were excited to be in the comic. So I was like, "Oh, really? Like you're not mad?" And so I just realized like, "Oh, okay, I can make fun of people as long as I just do it in comics." No.
Exactly.
As long as I draw it, they can't kick my ass.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I just did it. That was my outlet. But here's another reason why I think I did biographical comics was growing up, I just didn't I never got any books that had protagonists that looked like me. Like I got more books where the protagonists were animals and they weren't people of color who were the heroes. So I felt like the comics I was making was centering black men as me and my friends, black kids as the heroes. We were the ones in charge. We were the ones doing the stuff. And I think I didn't realize that until I got older. That's what I was doing until I was introduced. I didn't get introduced to like black writers until I was in college. And it was just because I had this amazing teacher who like it was his goal to like question like it put into question the whole educational system because it was an American literature class. I talk about this all the time. American literature class. He assigned us Maya Angelou, James Baldwin, Richard Wright. And when people said, like, why are you giving us black writers? He says, I'm giving you all American writers. This is an American literature class. And that was it. Like from that moment on, I was like, oh wow, like this guy he's working within the system, but he's subverting the system at the same time. And I love that. I love the idea of being in mainstream medium, but also subverting it and doing stuff that you don't normally see. So that's the way I've always operated.
Oh no, I definitely love that.
That's cool. That's a cool teacher.
Like you said, being in that. No, I was about to say a big shout out. Like that's super dope. And like you said, it's like a punk rock sort of thing, being in the mainstream, but like not following the wave.
Yeah. And that's it. I've always felt like I've had one foot in the mainstream and one foot in like indie punk rock and hip hop before when it was underground, and just bringing it to the masses, because that was one of the points with the K Chronicles. Was I just remember it being like when I was coming up, when I was in college, it was the late 80s, and anybody who was into hip hop was in a gang, was this or that, and that's what the media portrayed. And I was like, that's not true of any of the people that I know. And so I was just like, okay, like I want to do a comic strip about somebody who's into hip hop, but who is into other music and also into politics and also is not in a gang and, just into nerdy stuff. And so that really was the basis of doing the K Chronicles at the beginning. And I hope it still continues to be that. It's funny because I was in the bathroom. My kids bring my old books into the bathroom with them. So I was in the bathroom the other day and I picked up one of my old books and I was sitting there reading it. And I said to my wife, I was like, you know what? This is good stuff. I said I'd be into this if I didn't draw it. This is pretty cool. I hope it's still that way. I hope people still enjoy it as much as I do.
No, that's actually cool. Hey, I love reading my own stuff. It's so cool. I buy this.
That's the thing. When you get to a certain age and you can look back at, and it's the same thing with doing a daily strip. When I did a daily strip, that was the only time. Like with my weekly strip, I'll do it like an hour before it actually runs. But with a daily strip, you have to do it a certain number of weeks ahead. You're just cranking them out. And so I like when I see them come back at me weeks later, then you have some perspective because you're not just writing them right away and you have this sort of perspective and you can read it a little bit more objectively. And that's always nice to do that. And so these comics that I did 20 years ago or 15 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago, I'm starting to have this perspective on it. And I still see things where I'm like, that's not as good as I wish I had hoped to. But one of the things that's super important that I learned when I was in college was I'm not good left to my own devices. I need to have a deadline to hit or I won't get anything done. Like I need somebody calling me going, where is it? Where is it? Get it done. So
all day. That is me all day.
Yeah. That's it. There's no way. I probably produced 10,000 comic strips over my career, and I would have produced 3 if I didn't have editors, and deadlines and all that stuff. Super important for me. And that's it. And because you don't have that time, you draw faster, or you might the joke might not be as written as rounded as you hope would be. But I'd rather get it done and have a joke that is 90% as opposed to never get it done because I'm trying to get it to 100%.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And just you saying you've done over 10,000, that's crazy. Like how you able to just create ideas for a daily comic strip?
The trick is not to, if you look at it collectively and you start putting the numbers together, you're like 365 days a year, 10-year contract, blah, blah, blah. You start to freak out when you look at the numbers that way. But if you sit there and go, okay, can I come up with a joke a day? Then you can sit there and go, oh, okay, I can do that. And the other thing is this, another colleague of mine, Andy Singer, put it best. He compared it to baseball. He said, listen, a Hall of Fame baseball player it has a 300 average, which means they only get a hit once every 3 times at bat. And he says when they hit it, sometimes they get a single, sometimes they get doubles, very rarely they get triples. And every once in a while they get a home run. He says, when you're doing a daily strip, you don't have to swing for the fences all the time. There's going to be ones where you have a great idea, and those are the home runs. They don't come super often, but when they do, you knock them out of the park. And here's the thing. People remember you for those home runs. So I have people who come up to me at Comic Cons and go, I remember you did this one about avocados. And it's like one I did 18 years ago, but they remember it and they always read my stuff because I remember that one cartoon. Once I was able to have that perspective, it all came pretty easy. And there was a time when I was doing both the K Chronicles, my single panel Think, and then the Nightlife. So I was doing 9 comics a week for 11 straight years. And that was a lot. That was a lot.
Yeah,
That's great advice for people who are
tense.
writing and doing stuff like that, for sure.
Yeah,
because you probably heard it before, Mr. Knight, like how writers just get so caught up in wanting to perfect this one thing instead of just putting it out.
Yeah. There's something to be said about not having all the time in the world and not having all the resources. And I say this all the time. When we were shooting season 1 of my show, I would say, listen, George Lucas, when he created Star Wars, there were sandstorms. He didn't have enough money. Half the effects weren't even invented yet. Just were like, what is this dialogue? I don't get this dialogue. And he made Star Wars. And then he had all the money, all the resources, all the computer stuff in the world, and he made Phantom Menace. Sometimes it's better to not have everything and not have everybody. It's better to have somebody tell you, no, you can't do it, and you figure out a different way. And I'm not sitting there comparing my show to Star Wars or anything, but I was just saying, we're not doing rocket science. We're just making comedy. We could do this. We could do this. I was the weird cheerleader on set. It was funny.
Yeah, no, I bet. And also about Woke, your TV show. What was the process with the inception with Woke? What was the process to just on paper to on screen? How was that whole thing?
I had moved from San Francisco down to Los Angeles with the idea of getting a show because I was in ground zero for the tech industry to wipe out print. And I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna have a job pretty soon. So let me see what I can do. And so my wife and I moved down to Los Angeles, and it was a matter of, I found that independent cafe. I love drawing in cafes and just people watching and meeting the people there and everything. And I found this great cafe that was right across the street from Sony in Culver City, California. And it was great because there were people who came in and would just ask what I was doing and different things like that. And I just met this really cool young producer who didn't have many credits, but you could tell he was like really smart and eager to really work and hustle. And he said, you ever think about developing this stuff into a show? This was my K Chronicles and stuff like that. And I said, yeah, totally. That's what I'm here for. And he paired me up with a writer. We had some fits and starts. Like there was one writer that didn't work out very well, but then I found another writer that was really good, that was experienced. And it all just came together. Like we both bonded over the idea of, first of all, they loved my stories and they loved the twists and turns in the comics, but me and the other writer bonded over being profiled by the police. And so we were like, okay, what if that was the basis for this sort of awakening of this artist who just didn't do anything, did a very mild cartoon strip. And but then suddenly, like, it woke him up to all this everything. So that's really how it happened. My producer got hooked up with a guy who he had a production company, and he was a really nice guy. His name's Eric Christian Olsen, the actor from NCIS LA, the LL Cool J one, I think.
Okay.
He played Deeks. He was like the blonde guy who was like one of the side characters, but all the women loved him. And his dad taught American literature in college, and his dad saw my stuff, and he took his son aside and said, this will be the most important show you ever make. So I had this guy in my corner, and he hooked us up with another production company, and they had a deal with Sony. So they brought it to Sony, and Sony was like, yeah, let's shop it around. And by that time I had already moved. It's funny because I moved away to North Carolina, because we had 2 kids, and by that time we had 2 kids, and LA is so expensive. So it was just like, all right, I can do my job anywhere. I have the team in Los Angeles. I can fly in. So yeah, that Sony set us up with Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, Showtime, HBO to pitch. And I just flew back there. And the great thing about when you're not living in LA, when you live in LA, if they're gonna make 7 meetings, if you live in LA, they'll make 7 meetings over a 2-month span. But if you're just flying in for a week, they're gonna make those 7 meetings that week. They're gonna make it happen. And that was great because when you pitch, it's like performance. And if you pitch in a row, right in a row, you just get better at it. And I think we hit Hulu probably 3rd or 4th, and we were able to really sell the show, and that's what happened. So,
oh wow,
wow, that's a lot of behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, yeah, shout out again to literature teachers and cafes. I'm about to just post it in a cafe or something, like a Barnes and Nobles, or like my laptop. Just have like a sign, just have a bunch of signs everywhere, just pointing to it.
That's what happened. That's what the magic happens at the cafes, man.
It really is. If you're a cartoonist, yeah, it's not really a screen. Look at me, like you can just be drawing there, and you're gonna just get attention because you're just sitting there drawing. And so that's always been and I'm in my cave right now on my desk, and sometimes I draw down here, but I mostly draw in cafes. It's just that's where a lot of my ideas come from, because I just get into conversations with people and they just give me a perspective that I might not know about or just are aware of, or they may say something that I can twist. And I just I'm more of a people person. I think a lot of cartoonists are not, but I just love being out in public and just doing that stuff and drawing and talking. So.
Awesome. Well, and speaking on kind of backing off of what Joshua said about your show, I would just like to know, just in general, how do you feel about Black representation and Black creatives in media? Because I really like the conversation that you had in your show when your main character is for the breakdown that he has at the Comic-Con, and he's just, oh, I create this butter and toast because it's cool. I just want to do it. I'm just going to relax and hang back. I don't really want to make my art about anything in particular. I don't really want to make it say anything. And then of course that gets flipped on its head. And I always love to hear specifically from Black creators about that, about creating art to make it speak about something, or how that whole thing. So I just wanted to know, like, how do you feel about the way Black creatives are represented in media?
Ultimately, the way Black creatives are represented in mainstream media or in popular media, it still has to get by a room full of white people. There's only a certain there's only a certain amount of stuff that gets through. So I would say it's lacking, definitely. It gets to be trendy in certain ways. Like my concern was, because it was such a big, there were all these, Issa Rae was happening, Donald Glover was happening, and my only goal was like, okay, I don't want to be the one that screws it up and closes the door for everyone coming behind me. So I was like, okay, let's do this right. But I think there's something to be said about being able to create something that it doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to be about anything. Like that to me is freedom. Is you can do some political stuff if you want, or you can just do stuff about nothing. And sometimes that is a burden for any person of color, or like, why aren't you speaking about us and our issues and this and that? And it's just, I think that is a conundrum that we always have. But one of my buddies, Lonnie Millsap, really great cartoonist, New Yorker cartoonist, and the stuff he does, he has Black characters in it, but it's just absurd stuff. Like it has nothing to do with any current issues. It's just like a lot of it's just absurdity. And I think that's just as important as the stuff that I do. And I think there's room for it all. And for me, I remember I wanted to do a few things. I was like, okay, the first thing I want to put my character, he had a Dead Kennedys t-shirt on. I was like, okay, I don't want to open this up with hip hop. We have hip hop in the show, but it's like I want to open it with, I think it was a female punk musician, the first song in the show. And it immediately, I think you're so used to seeing a particular sound and a particular look that I think we were able to establish that this was going to be something different. And so that was really fun. And what I loved about it is I got to choose. I made most of the decisions in the show. So I got to pick music, I got to pick actors, I got to pick artwork, I got to pick sets, I got to where locations were and all this different stuff. And it was really important for me to have all the music in it are like Black artists, but they're performing hip hop, punk music, rock music, ballads, like all these different things. It was super important for me to make sure to showcase that all American music is Black music. Yeah, that
exactly.
was important.
Thank you. Right.
That's interesting because like me and Chad watching it, we're just talking about how crazy the soundtrack was.
No, the soundtrack
it's a great soundtrack.
It's really good.
It's a great soundtrack. I think Spotify, the first season has it all in a playlist, and I put together the second one in a playlist. But I was lucky enough, I was invited to the Nonfiction Comics Festival up in Burlington, Vermont last November, I think, and I got to see, there's a song in the second season, the last show, when they were in the hospital and Clovis is wheeling my character through the hospital, and there's a song called Urgent Care, and it's actually, I have the t-shirt, it's Rough Francis, and Rough Francis is the kids of a band called Death. Do you know the band Death? Are you guys familiar with it?
Never heard of it.
So there's a great documentary called A Band Called Death, and it's a Black punk band from the early 70s that were gonna get signed. But they wanted this big record label wanted to sign them, but they said you have to change the name of the band. And the lead guitarist was like, no, we're not going to change the name of the band. And so they never got signed, but they put out this album themselves, and it became this this treasured vinyl that's worth all this money. And apparently this one band in San Francisco featured the son of one of the guys from Death, and his bandmate said, hey man, I found this amazing piece of vinyl. And he showed it to him. And he's, that's my dad. And it was the record of Death. And so so because of this resurgence of the band got back together, even though the original guitarist died, but the rest of the band got together and they got their cousin, I think, and they tour now, and Rough Francis tours, and Rough Francis is based in Vermont. And so when I was there, the lead singer came by to my booth and said, hey man, thanks for using our music. And he said, we're playing a show tonight. And so they played a surprise show, and I was in Vermont, and the only Black people there were the people on stage and me in the audience. And they dedicated Urgent Care, the second song, to me. And it was snowing out, and it was like crazy. Everyone's jumping all around. And I was like the old man at the club. It was great. It was really, it was really amazing. So yeah. And apparently his cousin, who plays drums in their band, is so sought after as a drummer that he's played with Iggy Pop and like all these like huge folks like touring the world and stuff. So yeah, it's really fun to see. It's cool.
No, that's cool. That's real cool.
Yeah.
No, and it's
I don't.
Yeah, the other thing was,
what were you about to say, Josh?
Yeah.
Nothing. You can go ahead.
No, I think Essence did an article about the soundtrack, and they picked their favorite songs from the soundtrack, and their number one favorite song was my band, Marginal Prophets. And so it's funny because I played a reunion show with my band in 2012. That was the last show I did, and I tore my Achilles tendon jumping up and down on the stage. Unfortunately,
gosh.
Yeah, I know,
Oh.
but it was great to have this.
Yeah, it's awful.
We had this resurgence of interest in the band, and so we got to made a little money from being in the show and the surge and selling CDs and stuff again. So that was fun. It's good.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's funny because like my second point, or my next point was gonna be just the inception of Marginal Prophets, because I listen.
Oh,
of course,
yeah,
I listened to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay,
Yeah, no,
cool.
Yeah, no, that's clever.
It's
Like
fun. Yeah. So when I was putting my zines, I was creating these little free zines in San Francisco when I was first starting out in the early 90s. And I remember the guy going, don't put them out for free, sell them for like $1 or whatever. Like people value them and they pay money for them. So I started selling them for $1. But there was this one guy who would come by and he would pick up my zine. And then he just wrote to me and he said, hey man, he goes, I'm looking for an illustrator for these. He was pitching some advertising campaigns or something. So he's looking for storyboards. He says, I can't pay you, but I will give you hip hop tapes, cassette tapes. And I was like, all right, that's sure, why not? And so he started like giving me stuff. I was doing it and I was like, okay, I'll take this, but this sucks. I was like telling them, I was telling them what I thought was good and what so we just had a spirited back and forth about what I thought was great hip hop and what I thought was trash. And so he's like, hey, you want to start a band? That's sure, why not? Just put your money where your mouth is. And for me, I was just like, okay, if I'm gonna do this band, I'm not gonna rap about shooting anybody unless it's fictional. Like I'm not gonna claim I'm gonna rap about being broke. I'm gonna rap about being broke. Just gonna rap about my existence. And yeah, like when we play, I said, I want to have a band behind me. Like I don't think I can jump around on stage when there's no band behind me. So that's what happened. And we put this band together and it was really fun. We toured most of the western part of the country. We had an opportunity to go to Europe, but I think we were too old by then. Like this band wanted to take us there. And I was like, oh, we were both. So where are we going to stay? Oh no, we'll just crash on people's floors. I think I was just too old for that. No, I'm not going to move forward with having no idea where I'm going to, These guys are like, we'll just crash on that.
You're like, I'm way too old to do that. I can't do that. My back,
can't do no sleeping bag on the floor. Nah.
I think I need a bed. I need a nice bed.
Yeah. Or a couch, a decent couch. But it's really nice. My 11-year-old, it's shocking how much he listens to Bohemian Rhapsody, and he knows all the lyrics. And I said, listen, I will play one more show with the band, but I tell him, you got to rap with me. You got to, because I don't remember half the lyrics. The lyrics better than I do. And so I think we will play one more show at some point because I'm doing some artwork for some people in San Francisco. So I'm flying back there a little bit back and forth. And so I think the next time I go, we're gonna do some rehearsals and see if we can get enough of the guys on board to play a show. So it'd be fun.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely.
No, that'll be dope. Y'all want to do some more pressings?
Some more pressings of the CD?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I don't know. It's funny because my partner in the band like when the show came out, he was like, "We got to go back on tour again. We got to do this. I was like, "No way, no way." But I wouldn't mind. I have some vinyl. We put out some vinyl really early on, and I have a couple of vinyl records in storage, not in storage, like right behind me. And yeah, like I would love to put out a vinyl version of our albums because I'm a big fan of vinyl. And I'm looking over at my thing of vinyl right here. And I did a Kickstarter. I supported a Kickstarter that it was a build your own turntable. And me and my kids built this turntable that I've had for 5 years. And it's great. It's just vinyl is super expensive, unfortunately. So I'm basically I'm creating this man cave where I have turntables, but I also have a CD player. I have a cassette tape player, and then I have the flash drive. I can play flash drives and stuff too. So just multimedia, broke ass, sound system. It's fun. It's fun when I find something really good. Let me see if I can. I don't think it's here. I think it's upstairs, but I found this Public Enemy. It Takes a Nation of Millions in red vinyl. I found that in Portland, Oregon. No, Eugene, Oregon. And it was wonderful. Like I found it right when I went into the store, and I took it and I left the store because I knew if I looked any further, I'd end up spending all the money I was making.
Oh yeah.
On that show.
Yeah, for sure.
It's an expensive habit. It really is. Vinyls, because
you should
my
know
vinyl
that.
collection is
Right?
insane.
Really?
Yeah, like 300 vinyl in his collection right now.
It's definitely an expensive hobby, especially. Chad's vinyl collection is crazy. I'm like, my vinyl collection isn't as extensive as his, but it's especially bad when like you're trying to get a vinyl and they're all sold out and you got to get it like third party off of some kind of website.
Oh yeah.
Here's what I found. There's a couple of like just tiny towns that I've wandered into, and they have vinyl there, and I don't think they realize what they have. I picked up some DJ was unloading a bunch of stuff. I was getting stuff for $1 or 50 cents, old school stuff like Midnight Star and stuff like that. But I was like, sure, I'll take this for 50 cents. And then Sinead O'Connor just died last year. And I don't know if you're familiar with her debut, but her debut, Lion and the Cobra, is one of the best debuts ever. And I found just on the street, like there was a family just selling stuff. They had a pristine vinyl copy of Lion and the Cobra, and they were selling it for $2. They gave it to me for $2. I could walk down the street to the co-op and stand outside and sell it for $25. I almost felt bad taking it, but I don't feel that bad.
You're like, don't mind if
I was about to say,
do.
not that much.
Exactly.
Not that bad.
Yeah,
for sure. But
Let me
but
take
no,
that off your hands.
No more.
like when not like I just get envious of it's like on spot sales or like yard sales like that, because just being out and about, you just find crazy deals.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
a dude found an old picture in a yard sale, and he took it somewhere, and they come to find out it was a picture. It was the only other picture that existed of Billy the Kid, and he got, I think, $1 million or somewhere in the millions for that picture that he paid, I think, like $10 for.
Yeah.
See, exactly.
Man,
there's all this
crazy.
stuff. I don't know. I think you can see the reflection if you look to the, not this hand, but right here. There's this artist here. Yeah. And this totally spaced on her name now. Greta Boney, an artist here in North Carolina that like just creates amazing stuff, like super amazing stuff. And like one of the things I want to just take a bunch. Next time I'm in New York or Los Angeles, I just want to take a bunch of her stuff and then just walk into some gallery out there and just be like, I just want a 5% commission for turning you on to this artist, because there's just so much untapped talent just out, not in the cool happening states. And I think that's one of the grand discoveries of moving to North Carolina, which is just there's so much untapped talent in the South. That way, and that's starting to happen. Obviously, Atlanta is on the map now, but I just think there's so much untapped talent that we don't see get discovered or noticed, and there's an opportunity to do that. That's one of the things that I would love to do, is turn people on to some of the art out here.
Yeah, totally. What was her name again?
Greta Boney.
Greta Boney.
Okay.
Greta Boney.
Okay.
Remember that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get
amazing stuff.
To look her up for sure. But like you were saying, Mr. Knight, like the untapped talent market in so many different areas is crazy, because me and the guys, like we do look at like contemporary fine art. We've interviewed some contemporary artists, and we look at comic books, we look at animation, and there's just so many people out here. But also that feeding system, like you said, to get into the popular room or to get into the mainstream is so small. Like you even said with your show Woke, you were like, okay, we got Issa Donald out here. I want to do a certain thing. I want to do my thing, but I don't want to mess it up for somebody behind me. You know what I'm saying? So it's so wild to me, like how there's a lot of people, especially Black artists out here, but it seems like with people like Jonathan Majors or Michael B. Jordan or actors and artists like that, it's like one a year. You know what I'm saying? That's so wild to me. that a lot of more people don't get that opportunity.
Yeah. It really is. It's tough because there's there are certain gatekeepers, and those gatekeepers, they don't want to lose their job, so they look for the next person that's the same as this person. It's really tough for them to take a chance on somebody who's completely unknown. And I always say that doing the Daily Strip was like, it was a nightmare. No one under 50 reads newspapers. But I will say this: I think it showed them the fact that I did 9 comic strips daily every week for 11 years, knowing that I could keep that consistency for that long, I think said to them, okay, we can trust him with creating something, because he has created so much already, and intellectual property is really what they're looking for. And they just don't want to entrust. They just want to make sure you're not insane, that you're gonna they're not gonna entrust you, and then you're just gonna be like, yeah, just go nuts. You go nuts after you make the money. But
exactly, that's what the word. Right.
Yeah. But and even to this day, like when I talk to my producer now, he's like, when we got in just at the right time, because they were like the streamers were looking to spend money like crazy and take chances and all this stuff. He says it's not like that now. Like, it's really hard to try to do it. Now I'm lucky enough that I'll have a chance to pitch my next stuff, because I'm a proven commodity. So they'll listen to me once or twice, and then if they're not interested, they'll never listen to me again. But right now, I still have that opportunity. And that's the thing. Like, my goal is to if I can sell another thing, then they'd probably say, what else do you have? What else do you have? I want to get that sort of deal where I can be a gatekeeper, where I can say, okay, I can help bring other folks in. That's what I'd like to do. That's my goal.
Yeah.
I think it'll definitely, I think that'll happen, because I already think what you've done just in that space is amazing, because from what you were telling me about just the amount of control you had, that's what a lot of creators talk about. They're like, I pitched this idea, but the end product wasn't exactly my vision. For what me and my brother, like, and my friends here, when we watched it, it was just a cultural explosion of like blackety blackness and Afro futuristic sci-fi craziness, and it was just a lot of dopeness just rolled up into one. And then all of the great actors and comedians that you guys got to be able to embrace this world. And like I said, I was looking forward to the next season. I was mad when
I know it's a shame, but yeah, no, it was such a privilege to believe me. I was like, I would pinch myself like on set. Like I always thought that I would be able to make something happen, but I thought it would be like a B movie, sleazy, like unknown actors, and it would show like late night on some obscure channel. I never thought it would be these high quality actors, all these amazing, the music. It was like Stanley Clark did the music, and the director Mo Marable is just amazing, and just the people that we got to be in the show. It was a privilege and an amazing experience. And yeah, I was very lucky. And every time I do a convention, there's always cartoonists who come up to me and go, how in the world were you able to stay connected to it? Because so many cartoonists have said to me, I've gotten my stuff to option, and then they're like, okay, get lost, bye, we'll take it we'll take it from there. But the guys at Hulu were really cool, and it was important for them. They said that I stay connected. Like they said, you can't there's no way we can tell these stories without you being a huge part of it. So I was psyched about that, and just they really prioritize that. So it was good.
Yeah, I think it's like super cool because a lot of shows that, we have a lot of shows out there that are on Netflix and stuff like that they have the creator there in like present, not like in the room, but like they take its concept and then like they make a live action depiction of it. And the creator, you can tell the creator's not even a part of the project anymore. Like it's in namesake only. So it's cool that you're able to be a part of or have more hands-on than other creators and stuff like that, and you get your vision out there because not a lot of people have that option.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it was fun. When I would show up every day, I would just walk around the whole place where we were shooting, and I think half the people didn't know who I was. It was like, who's that guy who keeps on just who's able to just wander through the sets and do whatever? But I was just fascinated by how many people were employed because of my modest scribblings. It was like hundreds of people building sets and doing location scouting and creating props. And it'd be amazing to sit there and come up with an idea. Me and Mo, the director, we were sitting there going, oh, it'd be great if we had an advertisement for a cruise back to Ghana. And I said, okay, yeah, what if it said, go back to Africa in style, and then have this cruise ship? And I don't know if it's one of the ads that are in the background of the show, and it's the price is $16.19, and it just there's all these little things all through the show that I did a couple of events where I talked or I would type stuff through about all the little things that you can catch if you watch it multiple times. But there were certain moments where one of my favorite moments was there's a cartooning class. Cartooning class is a flyer that says cartooning class. And then at some point, Lamorne gets in front of the word art in cartooning. And if you block the word art out of cartooning, it becomes cooning. So then you just see cooning instead of cartooning. And there's a lot of like subtle things like that, which I love doing. It's really fun. I have a cat down here that's like doing strange things now.
Oh yeah, that they do that. The cats running.
Cats are cool. Speaking of cats, like Garfield, like growing up, Garfield was like one of my favorite comics.
Yeah,
I always like Garfield. But the funny thing but it's funny how you say, Mr. Knight, how artists are just like wondering how you were how you had the ability to be so immersed within the idea of your show. I haven't really heard of that. It's like the creator being so hands-on with everything.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, and I'm looking forward I think Jean Luen Yang, who did American Born Chinese. I'm looking forward to seeing him in person and just asking him what his experience was. Unfortunately, he didn't get a second season, but I wonder if he had a lot of hands-on stuff, picking actors and different things like that. It was just my management said to me, they said, "Listen, you want to you don't just want to be the creator, you want to be a producer." And so if you're going to be a producer, look at every aspect of the production. Look at everything from the mud. I learned so much stuff. I learned that with extras, if an extra says you can pay an extra a certain amount of money, but if they say more than 12 words of dialogue, then you have to pay them like a certain amount more. Like when we're running out of money, it's okay, this person can only say this much. Just trying to figure out all those like crazy things. And we shot the first season up in Vancouver, and it's supposed to be San Francisco, but it rained and snowed like 32 straight days in Vancouver.
Dang.
So like some of the outdoor stuff we couldn't shoot outdoors. So we had to scramble and come up with like ideas to shoot indoors. And there were just like a number of things like that there was always some issue or problem every day. And I'm sure every production has it, and you have to scramble and come up with it. And it's the same thing about like when you're a writer on set, and sometimes the dialogue either doesn't sound great coming out of someone's mouth, or they ask for alts, so you come up with alternative jokes on the fly. And that was really fun to do that type of stuff. There was so much neat stuff that happens. It was and you can't, there's no school that can teach you that. It's just you go through it and you just experience it. And it's stressful when it's happening, but again, I would always say we're not doing brain surgery. There's no need to be this stressed over. We're making television. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, but alternative jokes though, like alternative jokes, man.
On the
I don't know
fly
if I
too.
can. Yeah, alternative jokes on the fly. That's crazy.
That's a skill right there. That like when
No,
you think
that's
about
a
it, that's
big
that's a
skill.
whole flex right there to be able to come
For
alternate
real.
jokes on the fly like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but well, you know what happens is when you have amazing performers that we had, once you saw them do it, it just became really easy to work with them. T. Murph, who played Clovis, was hilarious. Blake Anderson, who played Gunther, was just like all these things. When we wrote this stuff, when you write it and then having these actors take it and then they just do something with it that you never expect, it is wonderful to see. It's wonderful to watch that happen. And that's I think that's one of the great things about as a cartoonist, you work by yourself and you control everything, right? Like you control the dialogue, you control the scene, pacing, all that stuff. But when you're working on something like this, it's like being part of a symphony, right? And if everyone does their job, like it's also like being in a band too. You bring this stuff and everyone brings their stuff, and hopefully you take this idea, but everybody adds to it and makes it way better than you could possibly imagine. And that's really what happened.
That's cool. Yeah, it's super cool. But yeah, like how many jokes did you have as like alternatives, like for each person? Was it just like one alternative or maybe like
I think
5?
you tried to have 3 to 5 alt jokes.
That's even
Yeah.
that's even more skillful. Jeez.
Mhm.
But also the actors would contribute too.
Oh, okay. So they like do their own stuff in there too.
Yeah. You'd get what was on the script, and then if it was done with efficient amount of time, there's room for alternative jokes and different things like that. That's good. And you want to do that because you get that, and then you have to move all the cameras and lighting around and everything. It's important to get what you can get.
Yeah, but no, I think that's good that you had like help coming up with the alt jokes, because I was just thinking like you just kind of come up with all those by yourself?
Oh no, and believe me, like I wasn't by myself. Like I was, you know, there was a showrunner there, and then there was my co-creator, Marshall Todd, and but there, and not all the time was Marshall there. There might be like another writer there. What was interesting is in season 2, it was during COVID, and we wrote the whole season. The writers' room, you have about 8 writers, but we never. It was all done on Zoom. I haven't even met half the writers in person. It was all done. It was COVID, so I was here and I got an office in downtown Carver here, and we every day just went to the office and sat and wrote the thing on Zoom. We had this writers room pitching ideas and all the different stuff on online. So it was fun. It was totally different though, totally wild.
Did it take longer to do it over Zoom than it did like in person? Was it faster to do it over Zoom, or was it like same, or like maybe a little bit slower?
I think it was more faster and more efficient. It was a different situation in the first season. There were some issues like when you're trying to establish the show. I think it's a little bit tougher. Whereas once you're in season 2, like it's a little smoother. The characters, there's a groove. So it definitely went, the season 2 writer's room went smoother. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I was just wondering because you guys were from like. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, but it wasn't. Didn't go smoother because it was online. I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. If it was online, it made it smoother, or in person made it smoother.
Yeah.
But how long did it like take you to go from the beginning to putting it out? Did it take maybe a half a year, or like how long did it go from start to finish?
I think it's 3 months the writer's room, 3 months to shoot, 3 months to edit, and then it drops. And then you're promoting it for 3 months. So it's probably 9 months production, and then it drops. So I think and then you're promoting it for a year, or you promoting it for. I think we found I think we found out about season 2 like 3 or 4 months after it came out, after it dropped. But yeah, it always felt like 3 months. 3 months of writing, 3 months of shooting, 3 months of, or maybe 3 months of pre-production, 3 months of shooting, 3 months of post. Yeah, it just felt like that all the time.
It came in threes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing, what came first? Did the intro, did the animated intro come first or last, or when?
I think it came last, but I had that idea of. I think it was just all that. Yeah, it came. I remember working on it while we were still. I think we were still shooting, but pitching the idea of the way it was doing it, and then we slightly altered it for season 2 because we wanted to show. If you look at it, I think in season 1 there was the fire hose spraying on to reference the fire hoses that Black folks had to deal with in the civil rights movement. But in the second season, what comes out is money instead of water, because we wanted to. It was about the commodification of woke. The whole theme was all these companies trying to jump on the sort of bandwagon because it's how can we make money from it? How do we capitalize on it? The capitalism.
How do we put capitalism in this
Exactly.
thing?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you like putting subtle stuff in there like that. That I actually caught that one. I caught, but the cruise ship commercial, that one took a minute. It took me a minute to catch that one.
Yeah, there's a few actually, and I do 2 cameos in the show. One was in season 1, episode 7. I was in the koala costume, and I got to punch my character in episode 7 in season 1. And then in season 2, episode 1, I'm I'm the mime. I'm the black mime at the beginning. And when Lamorne looks at me, I sit there and go like that to reference that he's going to die, symbolically die by the end of the series. Yeah. So there are all these like little subtle little things that sort of reference different things. But yeah, it's fun to
Yeah,
do that stuff. It's fun to drop that stuff, and it's neat when it gets noticed, and it's also neat when it doesn't get noticed, and you tell people about it, and then they look for it when you see it again.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, like we were saying, we love the show, and me especially. The koala part was one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of those episodes where when the first cut of it came back, we were like, we didn't know if we had anything at all. We were like, oh no, like what is, and it's a testament to our showrunner who was on set, Jay, who like really helped shape it in the editing. Like there's so much. Editing does so much. Editing can take a complete mess and turn it into something amazing. And yeah, it's just watching what that went from to what it became was really neat. It was really fun to see.
Yeah, totally. No, we loved it. But another thing I wanted you to touch on was the your red, white, black, and blue presentation.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, one of the, and this is, I started doing this pretty early on, which is when I saw the writing on the wall. The only way I'm going to get young people to read my stuff is if I just present it to them in slideshows. And so early on,
Yeah.
I just created these slideshows that highlighted my work. And I would do them all over the Bay Area. But one of the reasons people ask me why I moved here to essentially Chapel Hill, North Carolina, is the first place that invited me outside of the Bay Area to do a comic strip slideshow was Chapel Hill, University of Chapel Hill, UNC. And so when I came here, I had all these preconceptions of the South. I'm like, oh, I'm going to the South. Now I had been to Disneyland, I'd been to New Orleans. They're in and of itself, they're their own universes. But I'd never been to the South. And some would say even Chapel Hill, North Carolina is not really, but I just had a great time. And I was like, this is the South. I was like, I could live here. I said to myself, if I get married and have kids, I could live here. But yeah, just the slideshows are great because again, like I am a people person, so I love presenting my strips live in person, and it just gives me a chance to just, especially with red, white, black, and blue is my racial illiteracy slideshow. And so
Mhm.
that slideshow is just, it really is using my story to explain that we learn nothing about how this country was really built. We learn, and we need to know that. Like we, not only black people need to know because we built it. We built this country. like, and
Amen.
For sure.
Amen.
and but I, everybody needs to know the contributions of indigenous people, of Latinos, of Asians, and
Mhm.
not just white people created all this stuff, because the more you learn about it, the more you realize, like, I stopped believing, like, I don't believe most of the stuff people taught us in school. And so unless
Agreed.
you went to an HBC,
Mhm.
you have to like totally unlearn all the garbage that you learned, and then you have to relearn it in adulthood, like learn the truth. And so
Mhm.
these slideshows that I do hopefully are like a gateway to open people's minds up. The way my American literature teacher turned me on to those black writers back in the day, I'm just basically turning people on to getting people to consider. And I always say this, I say, okay, what could you possibly build if you had 250 years, like 2.5 centuries of free labor. What could you build? And we so don't consider the idea of like how vast and like we've been Africans and descendants of Africans have been enslaved in this country longer than we've been free in this country. And like when you sit there and go, this is slavery, and then this is Jim Crow, and then you're telling me that this much of affirmative action and this much of a black person wipes out all this. We know that the descendants of Holocaust survivors or people from the Holocaust, the survivors and descendants suffer from depression and suicide like more than most people. So collectively, what are we suffering from generations of trauma? What are we suffering from? And I would argue that we suffer like, and not just black folks, like collectively, like white people are crazy, are crazy. And the worst thing you could say to them, the word racist is their N word. If you say if they're racist, they're like, they freak out. And
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
what I'm trying to get people to understand that if we taught the real history of this country, everything would be explained. Everything from the job of the police, which came from slave patrols, whose main job was to keep the black population in check. And if you look at the Department of Justice's report on the Ferguson and Baltimore police departments, their jobs are to keep the black and brown population in check. So they're doing the exact same jobs as what slave patrols were, which were poor whites hired, deputized to chase down runaway slaves. So, but just there were so many, like the reason why there's a wealth disparity between black families and white families is America, the government gave these low-cost loans to white families back in the 30s and 40s to get their first house, and that is like the biggest way to accumulate wealth is real estate, and they passed it down to, and they didn't do it for black folks. So there's a reason why the average, the disparity is about a house. It's about a house. It's about 200,000, 250,000. So I do it in a humorous way, but I also, the way I do it is I make them laugh and then punch him in the face. Make him laugh, punch him in the face. And I just say my new slideshow is called Cartooning Can Save the World. And I make the case historically that cartoons have been used to inform people, to motivate people, to educate people, and to save people's lives. And so historically I show all these different cartoons, and I make the case that cave painting are cartoons and hieroglyphics are cartoons, and the importance of telling your story, because the most important thing is we get to tell our own stories. Because the reason why the history books are like this is white people have been telling black people's stories in the history books, and that they're trying to do it now with banning all the books, banning all the race stuff, banning all the stuff. And that's just taking that happened after the Civil War, which is Southern white women got on all the school boards and they say you can't teach that the Civil War was about slavery. It was about states' rights. Like it's everything that's going on today has been done for years, generations. And all the cartoonists that came before me, people like Maury Turner and Ollie Harrington and so many others, they were doing the same stuff that I'm doing now, but they were doing it 50, 75, Jackie Orms, 7,500 years ago. It's crazy, but history repeats itself. And so that's basically it. I'm just trying to turn people onto it. This is what these slideshows I'm doing. I'm doing Elizabeth City State University on Monday, actually. It's my
Nice.
second HBCU. Yeah, yeah. I'm excited
Mm.
about it. But yeah, I love doing it, and I think people need it, and especially with all these book bans and everything. I see it as like my own little underground railroad of knowledge. Is, oh, let's get the happy, funny cartoonist in here, and then I come in and
Mhm.
kick everybody's ass.
I was about to say and punch him in the
Yeah,
face.
totally.
Straight in the face.
Yeah, no, and I love that because I was on your website and I saw the page where you said something about how teaching the proper history can't always be funny, and I like how you put embracism.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I like embrace.
This idea of the whole kumbaya, like everybody, like we need to know that everybody who's banning these books is, oh, we don't want our white children to feel uncomfortable. Oh, really? How uncomfortable do your kids feel learning about Ruby Bridges, who was like this little girl who had to go and deal with desegregating schools? Where's the concern for all the stuff that we constantly go through all the time? Like we're forced to feel awkward and screwed up all the time with everything that we see and everything we have to deal with. And it's okay for people to feel a little bit awkward. I say this all the time. There's a reason why you look into your family tree and you find out that your family has a history of, say, heart disease or cancer or something like that. It's not a pretty thing to know, but that's how you are able to move forward in a healthy way. You have that knowledge and you move forward. And so this ugly history, we need to know. And everybody needs to know it.
Yeah, history is uncomfortable and dark as fuck. You need to embrace that. And it's not it's your ancestors, but that doesn't have to be where we're at now. If you learn from it and we change the way we're going. Like,
Yeah.
don't take it personally. That's not you, that's your ancestors.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, like people act like that it's going to destroy people. Oh, we shouldn't talk about that. Oh, my tummy hurts. Give me a break.
Right, exactly.
Not my
Yeah,
tummy hurt. That shit was so funny.
yeah, like just make every
Oh,
excuse
bro.
in the world.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, my tummy hurts. I gotta go to work. I'm tired.
That
Yeah.
stresses me out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What about, people say all the time, what about black on black crime? And I have an answer for all of it. First of all, you never hear about what white crime, black crime. White on
Mhm.
white crime is it's just about the same thing. It's like most crime happens in their community and they
Yep.
do it to each other. And you
Mhm.
just never hear about white on white crime, even though it happens all the time. And then people say, oh, get over it. It was a long time ago. And I always say, and it was in the show, like Jesus was a long time ago. You never hear anyone say, get over that, right? This was a lot more recently than Jesus.
Exactly.
And there are all these people say, oh, I don't see color. And it's just, oh, what are you talking about? You don't see color. If you don't, like, that's what drives me crazy is when people say, oh, I don't see color. And it's just like, why wouldn't you be psyched to see color? Like, why wouldn't you be excited that you are people or hang out with people that are of different races, different ethnicities, different genders, different ages, and all this different stuff? You should be psyched that what makes this nation great is its diversity. And people should be as psyched about the people who they know and hang out with, their food. What's your favorite food? Heck, man, like my favorite foods all across the board, and it's because of immigrants that came to this country. It's from the cultures that have all mixed and everything. My favorite place is New Orleans. New Orleans has the blackest white people I've ever seen in my life. But also like Spanish, French, African, so much is there. And it's just an amazing, wonderful place. I'm in New Orleans is in May for Blurred Fest. Is it? Yeah, Blurred Fest.
Mm.
New Orleans. Yeah, Blurred Fest, New Orleans, and it sounds like it's a really fun. Going to be a fun time. I'm looking forward to it. New Orleans is always great, but I've never done a Comic Con there, so I'm looking forward to it.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
That's gonna
Yeah,
no, that's gonna
totally.
be lit. I
I
definitely gotta get to New Orleans. I've never been, but I want to go
Me
so
neither.
bad.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
Me either.
you know what? It's like being in another country within our country. There's no other place like it. It's music, it's art, it's Black folks. Just like the worst musician in New Orleans is better than any musician anywhere else, and the worst
Mm.
food in New Orleans is better than any food anywhere else. It's a wonderful place. I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm definitely
no,
gonna
that's
have
cool.
to.
Yeah,
Oh
definitely.
yeah. Oh yeah. I'm definitely gonna have to try that. Oh yeah,
Got
for
the
sure.
slide.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Knight, one of the things, and again, we just want to say how much of a pleasure it's been speaking to you. Like, you've been dropping some gems, man. We are
Man,
definitely
definitely.
honored
Right?
Oh,
Definitely,
to have
totally.
had the chance
Totally.
to speak with you tonight, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But just going forward, oh yeah, no problem. Like you said, you've been able to do a lot of things in your career and go a lot of places just because of your hard work, and then seeing and figuring out what works for you and where's your niche and just where you would be in the realm of being a cartoonist. Just like Marcus and myself and Demetrius, we're all artists, and a lot of our fan base are artists as well, and they're huge fans of yours too. One of the last things we just wanted to know is, for all of our viewers and listeners out there, what kind of advice would you give to up and coming cartoonists, or really just up and coming creative that's trying to get themselves out there?
I say this all the time, which is, and it doesn't matter whether you're a cartoonist or a musician or a poet or a writer. I just say, tell your story, tell your unique story. If you have like, it's crazy, but I just found that the more personal that I would get, the more universal my stories would be. One of my most popular cartoons is this one called One Black Kid, and I did it. This is dedicated to this one black kid, and it was basically about microaggressions, but before the word microaggressions I had ever heard of it or whatever. But it was like all the little things, like this is dedicated to that kid who was not into hip hop in high school, and so it has this guy playing heavy metal drums, and someone's going, Black Sabbath's not black, but like all the little things that people have said, like that, oh, you don't fit the narrow view of what black is. And so when I did that, like I started getting emails from that one Latino kid. So they would list all the Latino stuff, and that one gay kid, that one disabled kid, like all these different ones. And here I was doing this personal thing, but it resonated so universally with so many different people. And so I always just say, just tell your story. And it doesn't have to be in an autobio cartoon. You can tell your story through another character in science fiction. You can tell your story
Yeah.
in a whole different, but you tell your unique story, you're the best person to tell it. Again, when other people tell it, they get it wrong, they screw it up. And so I would urge everybody to tell their story, and also marry rich. That's another thing. Marry rich.
So for all of our viewers and listeners, man, marry rich. That's the take home.
Hey, takeaway.
No,
Very
totally.
rich.
But yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the One Black Kid comic. That's one of my favorite comics from you. And you had in the last slide, it was one black kid, and there was like all those other black kids everywhere. Yeah.
No, that's like Black people bingo. When I sell prints of that, like people are like, oh, that's me. That happened to me. Oh, bingo. And it's really funny.
Yeah, for sure. And I loved it. And just you saying earlier how comics weren't your thing. You didn't really get into comics like that, and you mostly just short comics, just comic strips. And I'm the same way. I mostly got into comic strips in comparison to comics. And yeah, it's nice to know somebody that kind of shares that same sentiment.
Yeah, and it's not that I don't dismiss them or anything. I think it's an
Yeah.
amazing at this. I think it's starting to wane now, but like superheroes basically rule the world for a good decade. And but my favorite, like I will say this, like I think the best thing that Warner Brother DC ever did are the Teen Titans, the funny Teen Titans, the cartoon. I think it's
Oh
their
yeah.
best property that
Oh
they've
yeah.
taken to a different medium. And I just watched the movie with my kids that my kids were watching. It's brilliant, man. But I love to see. I love all this, all this nerd stuff because when I started, the first time I went to Comic Con, I think was in 1993.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like 53-year-old white men. That was it. 53-year-old white men everywhere. And now you go there and it's amazing to see just how diverse it all is. And at least the people going there. I'd like to see more and more people behind the tables and then the booths to be as diverse. And I think the indie comics, it's super diverse.
Come
But I
on,
think
yeah.
Yeah.
it needs to happen a lot more in the mainstreams too. But it's happening. Everywhere I go, there are always just these amazing creators that are. It reminds me of skateboarding. Back in the day, if you could ollie, you were like this amazing person. Now, if everybody and their
Everybody
sister
can.
could do it, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
and it's the way with art too. Like the art is so amazing. And so many young people are creating so much great stuff. If you looked at I look at my artwork from high school, and I don't know if I would tell high school me to pursue. I'd be like,
I'm,
I don't know, you might want to try something.
I'm telling
I
you,
mean,
man.
it, but
Seriously.
the way kids are these days, man, amazing work. So yeah, yeah. But yeah, hey, listen, I appreciate you guys listening to
Oh
my
yeah, of
blabbing
course.
for so
Yeah,
long.
totally.
Oh,
And
what?
Oh
Oh
no,
no,
man.
it
No
was a
problem,
pleasure.
man.
A
Yeah,
great
No,
it was a
pleasure.
it was
pleasure.
definitely it was definitely awesome, man. And like you said, with a lot of these younger artists right now putting out great stuff at a young age, the thing of it is we have artists like you that we look up to and see all the amazing things that you're doing. And like you said, when you were growing up, you didn't really see that representation, so you in that way became that representation for us and everybody younger than us. So for that, we appreciate that 100%. So
Yep.
wow, thank you. Thank you.
Totally.
All right. Thank you.
oh yeah, oh yeah, you were
Yeah.
definitely welcome. With that being said, Mr. Knight, it's been a pleasure, and we would love for you to let our viewers and listeners know like everything you got going on right now. The floor is yours. You've been dropping little gems of where you're going to be throughout the podcast, but just so you can let them know, the
Uh,
floor is yours again.
yeah. If people want to subscribe to my work, I have a couple. I have a Patreon that has the K Chronicles and Think on a weekly basis, and then I also have another Patreon just for Life's Little Victories, which is a thing that I was doing occasionally, like all the little things that happen to you in life that you should celebrate. I've been doing that over for years, and people have been asking me, "You should do that on a weekly basis." So I launched that a couple of months ago. But I have a new K Chronicles collection coming up in probably in May. I think it's going to be called Kiefer Madness, and it's going to be a collection of K Chronicles, but it's also going to focus on pot legalization and the good and the bad about it. We're watching basically back in the day, like so many black folks incarcerated for weed, and now that it's legal, 98% of the industry is white, and you see it, the whole system in action. And a lot of these folks who got arrested back in the day can't even get licenses because they have records. And I'll be doing stuff about that. But keithknightart.com is a great place to get my work. My latest graphic novel is about my time as a Michael Jackson impersonator in high school, called I Was a Teenage Michael Jackson Impersonator. And yeah, 1984. And then I'm doing TCAF, Toronto Comic Arts Fest in May. I'm doing Blurred Fest, NOLA in May. Um, and I'm doing other things. Oh, the Schomburg in Harlem in April, I think. That's a really great Black Comics Fest. That is just really good. Yeah, and just crank it, working on writing the next TV thing that I hope to pitch in the near future. And like I said, I'll be on the Norwegian cruise line in about a week. So
Yes.
yeah, I'll be at the whatever shrimp thing. I'll be like,
Oh, and I said I wasn't. Told myself I wasn't going to do it, but I was like cracking up earlier today with my brother because I'm a comedy nerd, man. So I love it. Anytime that I can find something that just makes me just fall out. You had one comic strip in particular that killed me. It was the racist aliens one. Like that one had me absolutely dead. So basically, for all of our viewers or listeners, it's two guys laying down staring at the night sky, and one of the guys is, yeah, I wonder if aliens are racist, and the other guy's, why? He's, because it seems like white people are the only folks getting abducted. and then and then the other guy's, nah, man, it's because like at night, I don't mess the joke up. It's because white people can be seen better at night, and that
yeah,
killed.
it's easier to catch white people at
That-
night. Yes.
Yes, that was
Yeah, I love that.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. And this is what I love about my readers. So after that strip ran, I started getting all these emails about that strip and saying you're wrong, and people were sending me the first news clippings of the first couple that got abducted by aliens, and it was a mixed race couple. It was a Black husband and a white wife. And I was like,
wow.
oh man. And but I would always write back to them. They got caught because of the white wife.
Wow.
But it's crazy. Look it up.
Got 'em.
But look it up. It's a real thing. The
Oh.
first
That's crazy, yeah.
abducted by
that's
aliens.
wild.
Yeah, it's an amazing back and forth, like with my readers. Like I learned so much from them and it's like a back and forth. And no, but I really appreciate that you dig that one. That's one of the ones I show on my slideshow.
Yes, that's definitely hilarious. And I think the other one is when the character is getting hanged, and he's, oh, is it because I'm Black? And the white dude is like, oh, see, there you go, making it about skin color again. Like, I can do that all day. I love them. They're hilarious. They're hilarious. So now that I'm done nerding out,
now that strip's gotten me. In some ways, like it brings me to schools. They like, come explain yourself. It's a great way for me to go and then just say, yeah, like these are some of the silly things, like the race card. Like when people pull out that race card, it's generally white people not wanting to talk about what we should be talking about. And I'm doing it actually in my hometown. I don't know. There's this day, the second Sunday in June is called Race Amity Day. I didn't even, the only Amity I know is Amityville Horror. But Race Amity Day is this thing where all the races all work together or something. I don't know. But I'm going to my hometown of Malden, Massachusetts to do a slideshow there. And it's because they saw me do another slideshow last year. It's nice to be able to travel and have these talks with people over this stuff. And I hope some of your listeners come and join the party and check out my stuff. So.
Oh, totally. And I don't want to keep you, Mr. Knight, but you got to give us a little bit of background on you being a Michael Jackson impersonator. Because like the advertisements on your Instagram had me and Chad.
The advertisements are gold.
They were gold. They are gold.
It's 1984 is when Michael Jackson was like the top of the world, right? So that's when Thriller came out. It was before any allegations or anything came out. So he was like the top of the world. And our school, like our high school, was having a talent contest. And the finale is they were going to recreate Thriller. And I was minding my own business. And one of the girls said, "Hey Keith, you would make a good Michael Jackson." And then this other guy I knew was like, "No, he's too skinny to be a Michael Jackson impersonator," which is like such a bizarre thing to say.
Well,
Too skinny to, yeah.
like,
So
okay.
That's crazy.
yeah, so just because he said that, I said, "Okay, you shouldn't have said that." Now I'm just gonna go out and do it. But it turned out he wanted to be, instead of just saying to me, "I would really like to be the Michael Jackson for this thing." He said that to discourage me, and that just encouraged me. And so it was on from there. And you just have to read the story, but like it's like a coming of age horror story.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. Listen, I made $75 an hour, and which is probably more than what I make now. And I got to I was this department store in Boston's official Michael Jackson impersonator for the Christmas of 1984. So it was pretty crazy. But I make the argument that
That is wild.
the business. And I toured with a Madonna impersonator, a Prince impersonator, and a Bruce Springsteen impersonator. But I make the argument that the business that I run
Wow.
today is I learned to run my business starting with that back in the day. And I had a Jerry curl. Yeah. And here's the thing. The whole story is so crazy, but my favorite part is when you're done with it, I have pictures of that time, like at the very end. So people are reading it going, "This is not true. This is not true. This is not true." And then you turn the page and you're like, "Oh no." It's fun.
It's
It's fun.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, that's really
No,
cool.
because Joshua showed me the post you made for it, and I hollered. So I knew we had to definitely talk about that. For sure.
Yeah.
But
No, it was fun to
they-
do because my memory is like completely shot. And so people would be like, my sister, I have a twin sister, and she said, "Oh yeah," she goes, "When you did the department store, you had me and your friend dress up in suits and sunglasses to be bodyguards." And I don't remember any of this. I was like, "Are you serious?" And it was fun to just talk to people. And it's not only about Michael Jackson. I did comics about Prince, about Stevie Wonder, about like just different musicians that were a part of my life growing up. So it was fun.
awesome. Awesome. We'll definitely let
Yeah.
all of our viewers and listeners know and put a link to it in our description below. So we definitely got you on that. No problems there. But yeah, we've kept you so long. We will definitely end the podcast out now. This is the real one now.
I know. My wife's gonna be like, "What kind of podcast was that?" Yeah. I hope you cured cancer with that podcast.
That's just what it is with us. Every time we have something, like we like to stick to, we say that we're gonna do like a 45-minute to an hour format, but then it's like we get to talking and we don't just talk about one thing, we're all over the place. So then 2 hours later we're here. But
Right.
that's just the mark of a good chat. So we just we just had a good time.
Believe me, if you
Exactly.
got fucked, I would have been like,
yeah.
"Hey, I gotta go to bed now."
No, we definitely understand. It was a blast for sure.
A pleasure, for sure.
And like I said, we'll put all of
Totally.
your stuff in the description below for our viewers and listeners, so they can go to your events. And you got to show some love to Atlanta too, Keith. Like, when you coming to the A, man?
Oh, listen, I have a supporter that wants to. He's trying to get me to do my presentation at the Civil Rights Museum. Is it?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which is a wonderful
African
museum.
American.
We shot season 2. We shot season 2 in Atlanta, and I had such a great time. I invited my family down, and we went to Great America, and it was amazing. The only thing I'm sad about is I don't know what I was doing, but there was a weekend where where I had a chance to go to see Atlanta FC and the Hawks, like in the same weekend, like back to back playoff. And I don't know what
Wow.
happened. Maybe I was sick or something, or I think I had to go back home for something. There was some kiddie thing that I had to be, but I missed 2 really great sporting events that I could have checked out and been a part of. But no, I had a
Yeah.
great time. Atlanta, I tried to tell people when I was in Atlanta, I think I was there for 2 months. I think it was maybe 2 months. And I listened to the radio all the time. And not once did I hear Billy Joel on the radio. And that to me is like the reason why I loved Atlanta so much. Like it prioritized.
Sure.
Yeah, it was the most I ever heard Al Green on the radio, like
Yes,
a PBS, like it was it's like black happy land. Just everybody looks good
Yeah.
and just everyone's got their thing going on. And I would take pictures of people's sneakers all the time, like a sneaker of the day thing, because like everyone had great sneakers. I don't know. I could go on about it, but also it had its fair share of crazy. That Atlanta's growing so much. That main highway that goes through downtown Atlanta, like the traffic, it's like the next 5 years is going to be. They either have to expand it,
75,
They're
85.
gonna have to
expand
it. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know how they're gonna withstand like the growth that's happening there. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, believe me, I want to get out there and do a slideshow, and if I do, you will be the first to know. Definitely.
Awesome, and I will. Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there with bells on for sure. So, Mr. Knight, exactly. So the one thing I want to do before we go ahead and head out, what the goal is for us guys after every podcast, we got to do our
shameless
Promotion.
Yes. It's time for our shameless. I was waiting for it, Marcus. I was waiting for it, bro. I was waiting for the notes, bro. But yeah, guys, we got to do our shameless promotion. So we are the Square Roundtable Podcast, and you can catch this amazing episode and all of our other awesome episodes on our website. And that website is squareroundtablepod.fandomlim.com. And one more time, that website is squareroundtablepod.fandomlim.com. And go ahead, Demetrius, what you got for us, sir?
And you can catch us on Rap Nerd on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Yeah, and also you can catch us on YouTube. And if you like the video, leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell on the right side of the video so you get notified of this video and future videos. And let us know about anything we talked about in this video. Did you see a show? Have you been following his comic strip? Let us know everything that we've talked about in this podcast. We talked about a lot of stuff in this podcast. Yeah. We'll be down there. We'll be down there talking. And follow us on all our socials, our Instagram, or the X. I'm gonna call it Twitter. I won't call it Twitter, but we'll call it X. And that pesky.
Right, it's called X now. It's X.
Yeah,
our defunct Facebook.
Also
we got to start a brand new one because that one's defunct.
Soon we're gonna be having Discord. Get ready for all that news. I'm working on a Discord right now. That's the news of the day. Discord is coming. TikTok, we're giving up on TikTok. I think we're too. That's our young man's game.
I hear
you. Yeah, totally.
So check us out on Discord eventually.
We're getting that Discord together. So follow us follow Keith Knight too on all of his social media, guys. And once again, like I said, we'll have everything in the description below. Yes, excellent. Sir. So with that being said, guys, no problem. And I would love everybody, including our amazingly awesome guests for the evening, to introduce themselves one time before we head out. And again, I am your host, Chad Singleton.
I'm your host, Dmitri.
You guys don't talk enough. Marcus and Josh, you should be talking more.
Marcus, where you at?
Oh man,
y'all just totally missed it. Like, what is it?
He missed it. Come on, Marcus.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you go. I guess I can go. Yeah, this is Josh. Hashtag yes. Hashtag no.
No. And I'm Marcus.
Goodness gracious.
And
Wow.
and I'm Keep Night, gentleman,
and-
cartoonist.
Awesome. And Keith, the reason why we're so out of sync is because we've had a hiatus. We haven't recorded in about a couple months. So we're gonna get the order together. So we're gonna
Yeah, no, it's definitely an order.
Yes.
Like that was my fault.
We
It was the order.
It's all,
Don't worry,
it's
man.
all good,
I'm gonna
man.
chop it up. We're gonna be good, okay? I'm gonna chop it
Yeah.
up both. Don't worry about it. It's good. It's all right. Don't worry. It's not gonna
No,
be
keep
here.
all of that. Keep all
No,
of
I
that.
totally
Yeah.
get that. Like,
Leave the
Keep that in
embarrassment.
there, Dmitri.
Leave
Yeah,
the
you gotta
embarrassment.
get
Okay,
that, 'cause-
I'll leave the embarrassment. Okay.
Yeah, I was slipping.
Yes. And big time. But with that being said, guys, this has been another amazing episode of the Square Roundtable Podcast, and we are out. Peace.
Peace.